Hello students. In this session, I will be covering one of the journal program for BCA students. The problem statement I am going to display here. Problem number 16, 16. See here, program to display the message, welcome to Visual Basic throughout the window. Okay, we have to display this message called welcome to Visual Basic. This message has to be displayed throughout the window with random forecolor for the message. It means that this text, this welcome message, welcome to VB, that is welcome to Visual Basic message, has to be displayed throughout the window. For example, if we use the label control to display this text, this caption, that is welcome to Visual Basic, then the label has to be displayed throughout the window. For example, we have to use the timer control here. So for every time interval, for example, for every second or for every 2 seconds, whatever the time interval we are setting, based on that time interval, the label has to be moved, okay, from one position to another position within the window. That is, throughout the window the label position has to be changed, but it should be, the label should be presented or viewed, that is within the window. So throughout the window the label has to be displayed with this caption, welcome to Visual Basic. And also we have to change the forecolor of the message, this message welcome to Visual Basics. So we have to change the forecolor of this message randomly based on the time interval itself. So for example, if at present, for the first second, if the label is present here, then for very next second the label has to be present somewhere on the same form. Like it might be moved to here in this position, then for the next second it might come here downwards. So likewise, randomly for every second the label has to move with this caption, welcome to Visual Basic. And also along with movement, its color, the forecolor or the text color of the label has to be changed for every time interval. So start the application here. Microsoft Visual Basic 6.0. Select standard exe project. Click on open. Here is the form designer window. Resize the form according to the requirement. So I will just use the form here. Okay, now basically first step in designing the application is we have to design the user interface, how actually the UI looks. So first I will take the label here to enter the caption. Then I will take the first command button here. This command button I will set it here at the top left corner. So I am going to take two command buttons here. First command button is to start the particular operation, that is when I click on this command button it has to perform. And I will take the second command button here and set it beside the first command button to stop the operation. Okay, first command button is to start, second command button is to stop. So when I click on the first command button, and this label has to move randomly within this throughout this window by changing its forecolor. And when I click this second command button, it has to stop wherever it is. Fine. If you want, you can take the third command button to exit the application. To exit the application, I will set here. Okay, the three command buttons. Now, other than these controls, I am taking one more very important control called a timer, because this application is based on the time event, the timer event. Because for the specified time interval, it has to change the position, the label position has to be changed, and also the forecolor has to be changed based on the time interval. Okay, so here this is the design part. Now this should be our first diagram with the default values. Now we have to change the properties of the respective controls. So for the first, that is form, I will change the name of the form as FRM. JP16, FRM JP16 means FRM Journal Program 16. You can give any form name. Okay, then I will change the caption of this form as changing fore color and changing fore color and welcome message randomly. Okay, see here the caption changing fore color and welcome message randomly. Then I will set one of the property called window state to maximum. Okay, maximized. It means that when you run the application, your window, this window will be maximized by default. See, it will appear like this. So I will just set the property window state to maximized. Okay, so these are the properties I am changing with respect to the form. Then for the command 1, that is command button 1, I will change the name of command button 1 as CMD start. Then caption I will set it to start. Then for second command button CMD stop. Caption as stop. Then third command button CMD exit as the name and caption as exit. You can specify the shortcut keys by specifying ampersand prior to the character. Okay, now I will change next control property, that is label. Name of the label I will set it to LBL MSG, LBL message, LBL MSG. Then caption I will change it to welcome to. In the problem statement they have mentioned to set the text message to, that is welcome to Visual Basic. So I will change the caption as welcome to Visual Basic. Okay, next I will change one of the property here, that is font property of the label, to increase the font size. See here, I will just increase the font size to 12 and also I will set the font style to bold. If you want you can change the font also. There are different fonts are there. So click on OK. But now I have changed only font style and font size properties. Remember the properties because we have to list them out in the properties table. Click on OK. Now the label is appearing like this. Just increase the width so that it fits well. The text fits in the label. Now the label is here. Next control is timer control. So the timer control, the property called enabled properties, by default it will be true. But now as I'm using start button, stop button here, so initially when we run the application, the timer must be disabled. It means that the enable property of the timer must be set to false, because whenever the timer is enabled, then its respective code, whatever the code we are writing here to change the fore color or to move the particular label randomly within the window, okay, all the code procedures are going to work. Okay, that is with respect to the timer event. All the code that is with respect to timer event will be executed whenever the timer is enabled. So hence when I run the application, initially the timer should be disabled here. Okay, only when I click on this command button it must be enabled, and when I click on the second command button, stop command button, it has to be disabled. Okay, so initially I will set the enable property of the timer to false, and I have to set the time interval. Okay, so I will set 1 second time interval. So for every 1 second the fore color has to be changed and also the label has to move throughout the window, throughout this window form. So 1000 value is nothing but it is equal to 1 second in terms of milliseconds. Now we have to write the code. So this completes the second phase in development, that is changing the properties. Now we have to write the code. So before writing the code, I will just run the application and show you how it looks. See, this is how the application looks initially. That is with three buttons: start, stop, and exit button. Then here is the label, and we had the, that is timer control, but it is not going to appear at the runtime. Only in the background the control will appear. Okay, now we will write the code for this application. First, for the first command button, start command button, I will write the code. So when I click on the start command button, the timer should be enabled, because only when the timer is enabled, then the code that we are going to write for the timer event, that is going to be executed. Okay, so in the timer event, we are going to write the code to change the fore color, as they have mentioned, to change the fore color randomly for every time interval, and also we have to change the position of the label. Okay, we have to change the label position, has to randomly change, and it should be within the form window. Okay, it has to display throughout the form. So first, for the start command button, I will just enable the timer here, timer 1 dot enabled, because I have not changed the timer control name. Okay, its name is timer1 itself. So timer1 dot enabled equal to, we have to set it to true when we click on start command button. Likewise, when we click on stop command button, it has to be, the timer event has to be stop, those disabled. So for private sub cmd stop underscore click, timer1 dot enabled must be equal to false. It means it is disabled. Then what about exit command button? Exit command button is used to terminate the application, to exit the application, to end the application. So here I will just specify as end, so it will terminate the application here. Now we have to write the code for the timer control. That is private sub timer1 is the name of the timer control, and underscore timer. Timer is the event name. Okay, so for the timer, only single event will be there, that is timer. Now we have to write the code for timer event of the timer1 control. So see here, basically in the problem statement, if you observe here, program to display the message welcome to Visual Basic throughout the window. Throughout the window we have to display, okay, this welcome to Visual Basic message. And also the second operation is with random fore color for the message. The fore color of the message has to be changed randomly based on the interval, time interval. Okay, now we'll concentrate on the first operation that is to be carried out, that is the label has to be displayed throughout the window. So throughout the window, in the sense, for the label to set the position, there are two main properties are there, or for any control we can say there are two main properties. The first property is left property. Left property already we have discussed while discussing the properties of different controls. Okay, left property is used to set the position, that is position from left edge of the window to the left edge of the particular control. Okay, here if we select label 1 dot left, then it is going to be the left, or the distance from left edge of the form window to the left edge of the label 1 control. Okay, and there is another property called top property. Top property is going to set the distance from top edge of the window to top edge of the particular control. The control here is label we are using. So top property, if we consider, then top property is nothing but it is going to be the distance from top of the window, top edge of the window to top edge of the label control. Okay, now observe here, I will just demonstrate here. Label, the label name is, I had just taken the label name as LBL MSG. Okay, so here LBL MSG dot left property, labels left property equal to, if I specify directly the value, for example, if I specify 200 or 500, whatever the value, then what it is going to display when I run the application and when the timer is enabled, this label left property is going to set it to 500 twips. Okay, its value will be by default, its value, that is left and top value, will be measured in terms of twips, a measurement quantity, the default measurement quantity in VB. Okay, twips. So it is going to appear somewhere here. It means that it is going to leave the distance from left edge of this window to left edge of this label control, that is 500 twips. See, when I run the application and when I enable the timer by clicking on this command button, see where the label has moved. It has moved to this position because left edge of this window is 0, and from 0 to here left edge of this label the distance is 500 pips, this distance. Hence it has moved and this position of this label is set to here. But here we have to move this label randomly. Okay, so what will happen here? We have to write the code to set the position of this label, that is left position of this label, to random position. So I am going to use the random function here, rnd function, that is rnd function into. So if you specify any value here, with respect to that value it is going to multiply. Okay, multiply. But here the label left property should be within what? Within the form property, or within the width of the form, whatever the width is there, this form. Okay, the width, the label has to be displayed only within this width. Okay, if the form is only of this much width, then it has to display only within this width. If the form width is increased here, then the label has to display randomly within this width only using the left property. But this label must not go outside the width property of the form. Okay, not outside these two edges, that is left side edge or right side edge. The label must not go outside the edges of the form, because in the problem statement they have mentioned that throughout the window it has to display. So here I will write the code rnd into forms width property. What is the name of the form? The form name is frmjp16. frmjp16 dot width. Or instead of writing this form name, you can just write as me dot width. That is also accepted. Now see here, when you run the application here, what will happen when the timer is enabled? When you click on the first command button, start command button, the timer is going to be enabled, and when the timer is enabled, this code will be executed. So what is the code? Label dot left, that is label name dot left is equal to random rnd into forms width property. So forms width property is going to multiply with random function. So it is going to generate the random value and it will be within the form width. Okay, and that value is assigned to what property? Left property of the label. So here the label's left property is going to change, and that is going to appear within the particular width of the form. It is not going to outside, or it is not going outside the width or outside the edges of the form window. Now see here, run the application, click on start. See, in the same line it is displaying. Why it is not displaying somewhere here or bottom or top side? Because we have not set the top property. We have set only the left property. So by changing only the left property, the label is moving here. Okay, you can observe here the label is not moving outside these two edges. For every 1 second, it is the label is displaying within the form width property. Got it? Now it is working fine. The label is working fine, but only with respect to these, that is left property. Now in the same manner, we have to write it for top property because it has to display randomly. Now see, I will write the same very simple code here. That is again the label name lbl msg dot. Now we have to set what property? The top property, top, equal to, again we have to change randomly, because if you specify only some value for top, then for example if I specified 800 only, now when I run the application and timer is enabled, see, the top is set to 800 and left is changing randomly, because we have written the random into left property, form width property for left. But for top it is not changing, only this much top value is set fixed, constant it is. We have to change it randomly. So instead of specifying the constant of top value, I want to change randomly. So rnd into, now if you want to change the top value, if you want to change the left value, you have used what property? To check or to make it appear within the width of the form. But for the top property, what particular property of the form you have to select? You have to select, that is form's height property. Okay, because see, this is the height of the form currently. Okay, so when you run the application, this label has to be displayed within this height only. If you just decrease the height or increase the height here, then the label must be displayed within only this height values. Okay, the label must not go outside this range of this height. Okay, this initially it will be 0, the height will be 0 here. Here you can just take the example, the height is, that is 12,000 pips. Okay, the label's top value must not be 15,000, means it must not exceed this top value, hence we have to write the code here, that is rnd into the forms frm gp16 dot what property? Height property. Now you can observe here, run the application and start. See, now the label is appearing for every 1 second, it is randomly displaying throughout the window. Okay, it's changing both its it is top property as well as left property. It means that by changing top and left property, the label can be appeared randomly throughout the window. But the second operation we have to do, that is we have to change the fore color, random fore colors. Yes, we'll write the code for that. Already in the previous journal program, we have seen how to change the random colors. So labels fore color we have to change. The label name is lbl message dot fore color property equal to, using the qb color function you can change the fore color property. So qb color of, we have to specify the argument here. See, if you specify the numbers or the range from 0 to 15, it is going to accept. Okay, if you specify any single value here, only that particular color it is going to appear. For example, if we specify 12 here, then for the fore color property this function will be applied, that is argument number 12, in the sense a particular color will be present for this value 12, that is going to be applied for where? Fore color of this label. See, it is nothing but the value 12 is nothing but red color, so it has applied only single color. But if you want to change it to random colors, then what you can do? qb color of rnd into random into, that is all the colors, that is 15, maximum value is 15 for the qb color, so into 15. Now run the application, and when you click on start, the timer event will start for the timer 1. Now you can observe here, it is appearing throughout the window. The label, that is the welcome message, is appearing throughout the window with random fore color. Yes, this is the journal program for BCA students. And when I click on stop, it is going to stop the application wherever the label is present, because the timer is going to disable when you click on this stop command button, as it is the event driven programming language, and when you click on exit, it is going to terminate the application. This is the journal program for BCA students. Thank you.